Ah, Casterly Quill. Long neglected but never abandoned. Soon you shall be complete, and then... Wait it. What? Continuity? How could you? I thought we were bros. And where the heck am I supposed to find another Aramospi skull? Oh. Okay then. We begin with a bit of Queen, as I can't tell, is this the real life, or is it just fantasy?
Congratulations, Silverstream! You're officially the first non-Pegasus Wonderbolt!
Given how suddenly Rainbow Dash got promoted, I could believe this. In fact, I fully expect this to happen sometime in Equestria's future.
I don't know how to thank you, Professor Dash! Easy! You're kicking off our show right now!
Yeah, still not able to make the distinction. 1, Rainbow Dash only had 2 days to learn a routine before her first show. 2, it's Rainbow Dash and patience and forward planning aren't her strengths.
Somehow I missed a class all year and the final is today! If I don't pass, I can't graduate!
Okay, now I know it's a dream because I've had that same nightmare several times. Stop reading my mind, My Little Pony show writers! Oh, and Smolder's still rocking the princess dress. I ain't judging, I just think it's cute. As for the rest, it's business as usual. Good times. Anywho, before you can say collective unconsciousness, they all get a summons from the Tree of Harmony. Or from that bit on the left. Though please indulge me in a tangent as we trace the colors from the identity theft of Twilight Sparkle to each of the students. Now compare those colors to how the students glowed back in school rays. Different color choices for most except Yona and Silverstream. Yet before you think I'm citing this as a critique of the show, I see it as more of a caution for the audience. Because these 6 are being taught by our lead heroines, it's very tempting to try and view them as direct relations. Yet that's a disservice to the characters and a limit on their potential. Case in point, when Gallus first appeared, he seemed to be a direct student for Rainbow Dash.
Thought you'd be cooler.
Yet as Season 8 progressed, Gallus underwent a shift. He wanted everyone to be aware of his street savoir-faire.
But at least I know where one of the artifacts is. Saw Spike hiding yesterday. Crown of Grover! Score!
Yet by season's end, both he and Ocellus demonstrated some book smarts of which Twilight Sparkle would be proud.
Hey, this is just like Chapter 12 in Kethakis Facts and Artifacts from Twilight's class.
You paid attention in class!
What? If you ever tell any...
To put it another way, I think these characters are more enjoyable if you don't try to limit them to their predecessors. They were my favorite part of Season 8, and I'm glad to see them have a fresh challenge. Like being summoned by the tree.
Don't feel bad it didn't reach out to you. We kind of have a special connection with it after last year.
But pride cometh before a fall.
Maybe next time, ease in with those truth bombs.
I don't see how you could ease into such news. Plus, it ain't a truth bomb if you just ease it. That'd be more of a truth fart. Anyway, we get some very accelerated stages of grief this time. Some stages featuring a little twist on the idea, because grief manifests in different ways. Sometimes denial isn't refusing a tragedy's existence, but asking how or why.
How could this happen?
Anger might manifest against others.
I wish that somber guy was still around so we could teach him a lesson.
Or against oneself.
If only we hadn't gone home for summer break, maybe we could have saved the tree.
Though the guilt expressed there can lead to the third phase, bargaining.
Maybe if we close our eyes and think really strong friendship thoughts, the tree will get better.
It's not unreasonable that in a magical land, their desire to restore the tree might accomplish such a miracle.
Okay, so, which one of y'all motherfuckers didn't believe hard enough?
I realize that's pretty irreverent when talking about grief, but let's consider something. The group accepts this very quickly.
I guess the tree really is gone.
So while Thanks for the Memories was about Rainbow's journey towards acceptance, this is more a story of the group moving forward after acceptance, starting with the resolution to create a memorial, with one delay.
Ocellus!
That is the cutest rock in history. We're about to enter an act where it can feel like the episode is spinning its wheels. The Student 6's permission montage plus their individual efforts can feel like filler, given that very little of it comes into play towards the resolution. A resolution that lacks a sense of tension since we're meant to accept that the tree is truly gone. There's no time limit or inevitable outcome as there was with Tank's hibernation and the approaching winter. So we're watching a lot of events unfold, but not with any sense of purpose. Even from a character standpoint, viewers might not gain a deeper appreciation because it's not clear at first why each student would choose these various methods. However, I'm going to argue that this episode is not character-driven or even plot-driven, but more culturally driven. To be sure, their characterization is a factor in how they interact with one another, usually arguing.
Why couldn't you have been more careful?
This never would have happened if you would all just listen to me.
Yet the source of this story's conflict lies in how each character's culture has shaped their perception, and therefore their actions. Let's start with Thorax's appearance, demonstrating several aspects. The first is that he's come a long way since Triple Threat, and is able to be forceful and assertive. He also has the best joke in the episode.
Wait! She can't leave! We have a dragon quest!
But she's not a dragon. You know what I mean.
Consider that this might be the last opportunity to see Thorax before the series finale. By a similar notion, Ocelus's trip home might be the last we see of the Changeling Kingdom. The Changelings are a culture that's still trying to synchronize with the rest of the world. Part of this process is getting in touch with emotions that were long since denied or only expressed through aggression, so it makes sense that Ocelus would expand that discovery to the Tree of Harmony site.
I got some help and guidance from the counselor at our Feelings Forum back home.
Nope. I'm still cheesed about my castle. At the opposite end of the expression is Gallus, who isn't a big fan of his own culture. No surprise given how impatient Grandpa Gruff was to be rid of him. Yet what does Gallus's attempt to create a memorial museum say? Obviously you can't run something like that without raising money. So I'm betting he charged those 2 ponies for entry, or at least hoped that they'd advertise via word of mouth. It sounds insensitive to honor the tree by running a business, as Sandbar points out.
And made the tree some kind of roadside attraction? No thanks.
But Griffins do place a lot of emphasis on income. When Grandpa Gruff passes on, I'm certain his will stipulate a charge to pay respects. This is Gallus making a decision based on what he knows. The intent is still to honor, but the larger culture is affecting his expression. Same with Smolder, who doesn't need permission but must instead prove herself. Dragons emphasize strength, so she has to win a contest to get Ember's approval. In the same way, she wants to honor the tree through a large, powerful, and intimidating memorial. Problem is, she's no good at carving. It's here that we get a character moment.
And honestly, I'm kinda having a hard time remembering what the tree looked like. I can't believe I'm already forgetting.
I'm assuming that she briefly saw the tree while they were camping out of the castle remains. Yet memory is fickle, and often our thoughts and feelings are easier to hang on to than the factual events, which is a proper transition to Silver Stream.
These are the emotions its loss made me feel, dancing with the representations of elements of harmony.
Her culture is a little harder to unpack because her people inhabit both the land and sea, which is why it's fitting that she tries to explain everything to her full family. The Hippogriff father, the Sea Pony mother, and the brother who moves between both worlds. A large part of Silverstream's culture is defined by a time in exile, so once the threat of the Storm King ended, they set about reclaiming both a sense of identity and celebration. The painting makes sense because that's certainly one thing she couldn't enjoy underwater. Even if she could, oceanic life is based on near perpetual motion. Good luck getting anything to stay still for a portrait. So instead she's relying on a different approach.
It's Impressionism!
A style that relies on vivid colors and the suggestion of objects and people rather than high detail. Something one might experience underwater. I guess the only thing I question is that she's using long, unbroken strokes. Impressionism is often described as using short brush strokes to create a livelier image. We'll cover Yona shortly. There's only one member of the team that I think is more character-driven than culturally driven. Sandbar is a bit of an oddball because, unlike the others, he has no need for a permission slip and he's completely at home in Ponyville. Thus, he doesn't have a lot of vulnerability with which to empathize. If anything, his actions in this story emphasize that he's not great at thinking things through.
I got rid of it.
You did this?
Yeah. That's what you guys were thinking, right?
This is something that's easy to label as a flaw, but like many traits in the show, I think it both a strength and a weakness. Looking at all that's happened, I'd say that same sense of obliviousness can help him. After all, Sandbar was the only pony to reach out to other creatures and form a bond. I don't think he did this as any part of an agenda, belief, or political expression. I think he didn't even consider the concept of differences or barriers, just as he doesn't give much thought to bigger problems. That's why his idea of a nightmare is having to choose between multiple giant cupcakes, or the worst horror story he can think of is having a doll almost fall in a fire. That doesn't mean he's clueless. It just means that he can't appreciate a situation unless the consequences are more immediate. Like when he feared that he wouldn't get to go home for the holidays, or when he realized that he and his friends were about to lose everything, or that he's about to be crushed by a runaway monument. And this is just my shipping side running wild, but I'd like to think that Sandbar started taking an interest in Yona because of this moment. Speaking of Yona, she really is the best in this episode.
Yaks know things not forever. That's why smash and rebuild.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Dang it all. I'm actually liking the yaks now. Yona's permission slip sequence at first seemed to be her earning the right to go, much like Smolder. But upon hearing that philosophy, I think it's different. Rather than trying to buy permission, she's affirming that her head's on straight. First thing is to make sure that her family's doing all right before she fulfills another obligation, and to do it well enough that her mother approves and shows her appreciation. Seems practical given the dangerous environment. If there's one thing I can say Season 8 and now Season 9 have done well, it's changed my opinion on the yaks. When Rutherford was the only example, all I saw was a stubborn, violent group that lacked any virtue. Yet the Yavitaphone fans in Yakety Sax and Yona in general offered a much different view and in my eyes a much more positive representation. This idea of seeing things as transitory and not being defined by the physical is a very appealing philosophy and goes a long way towards explaining why yaks are so eager to smash. And the way Yona both presents the idea and encourages a new solution is a celebration of both her culture and character. Don't get me wrong, I'm still not a fan of Rutherford, but I'm no longer so hostile towards the yak's general presentation, though I think that would improve further if I could look them in the eyes as I can with Yona. Ooh, idea. It's just a little off the front, I swear! The clubhouse is meant to be a physical tribute to how the tree lives on in spirit, and it also serves a utility. But kinda like the Crusaders in rebuilding a table, their teamwork isn't quite there yet. Much like having cultures interact, there's a lot of mismatching, odd shapes, and the need for a strong bond to keep everything together.
It's kinda messy. Like a bunch of different parts all smushed together. Oh, it's just like us!
It doesn't help that the song is nice, but not the strongest in the show. Not all their voices lend themselves to singing. However, the end result does have a new outcome.
Whenever you seek solace, come here.
This feels strange because a big part of this was accepting that the tree is gone. Reversing that now feels like it's sending the wrong message. There are a lot of other questions involved. Does the map still function? Can the tree spirit talk to anyone in the clubhouse? Does this mean that the Everfree Forest is once again pacified? I don't think the students could travel here freely if it were still a danger.
Yona not scared of puckwudgies anymore.
Oh yeah? What about crocodiles and cockatrices? Of course, you can also tackle the meta question of this structure's real role. Coming soon from Hasbro Toys. Start selling your kidneys now because this one's gonna be a doozy. Except, there hasn't been a toy for any of the Student 6 yet, and I really doubt they'd include all 6 in anything larger than a mini playset. So is this a toy sale or not? I'm unsure.
Who cares? It's super sparkly and therefore it belongs to me!
After all, everyone knows that I am Sparkle Horse Incarnate.
It's my castle, no one can take it.
The heck just happened?
Mine! It's mine!
Yeah, I'm keeping out of this one. Whatever the case, this episode runs the risk of losing people at various steps. Being that this is the final season, I wonder if this might be a farewell episode for some of the locations and cultures, a tribute of its own to the world that's been hugely expanded in more recent seasons. Yet this runs the risk of making it harder to identify with the characters, which in turn weakens our investment. If there was a sense of trying to save the last of the tree's spirit, then we'd feel a stake in the outcome. Instead, there are large parts that can feel like they're happening to pad out the story before introducing a new part to the world which may or may not have been a corporate mandate. Either way, I'm out of a frickin' castle again, but I shall not surrender. Casterly Quill will rise again. I'm Silver-Quill. Thanks for watching.